Hi there, thanks for joining. Today I want to show you how you can approach painting transparent things like leaves, for instance. And the way I prefer to approach it is just by looking at colors, at the colors that I see, and not think about transparency. Because sometimes I think we think too much and our brain gets tricked very easily. So I try to shut down my brain and I look just at colors that I see on a certain spot. And there is no right or wrong in art, so everything is allowed. But sometimes I see that people think like this. There's a leaf that is overlapping another leaf. Maybe I should paint the first leaf first. So for instance like this. So now I quickly have to dry it because acrylics dry so slow. Just kidding. Most of the times we say acrylics dry too fast. Can you hear me, by the way? I don't know. But there we go, yeah. So here I have one leaf and then people think, let's use a lot of water and paint another leaf on top of it. Then it is transparent, sort of. So that of course is also a way to approach things, but it is more difficult in my opinion. Because then you need to be very scientific about which color is the leaf underneath and all that kind of stuff. I keep it simple. I just look at the things that I see and I use that information. But I'll show you in this short demo. So we can imitate the effect of transparency by just looking at the colors that we see. Let me put in the background first. So I have a little bit of sap green here. And I'll add a little bit of burnt sienna. Then we get more a kind of a brownish green, you see. Well, let me also add a little bit of pyrrole red, then we get quicker to where we want to be. So, this will work better. Yep, that is good. Then I take a little bit of yellow ochre for some lighter parts. Yes. And here I make a mixture for even lighter parts, so I add even more yellow ochre to it. Yeah, that's great. And at some parts there's a little bit more orange feeling to it. So I'll add a little bit of red here. Just repeat the process. A little bit of yellow ochre as well. And then we get more of that orangey feel. A little bit of the green. Yes, also that's good. Then I'm gonna make a light blue color. We can start off with white, then I add a little bit of ultramarine blue. It contains very little color, the sky in this picture. And again, the background is sideshow, so it's scenery, but we need it to show foreground. I think this is quite alright. Maybe it can use a tiny bit of red as well. Pyrrole red in this case. So there you go. Yeah, that's right. Okay. So let us first block in the background. And it's a sideshow thing, as I said. So yeah, let's try to not be too precise about it. Let me first start with the sky. Then here I've indicated some of these spots of lighter color, but it doesn't matter that much where you put it. But just put in some paint. Then you can manipulate it later on, of course. Here I see a small spot as well, and here. I think, yes, here it is. Here is another light part, and over here we see some lighter parts. put it in a little bit randomly. Doesn't matter that much. Yes, here as well there's a little hole where you see the sky. I wipe my brush clean a little bit, not too much, don't need to bother. Then I grab some of the dark color and I just rub it in at some spots. But the purpose of these colors is to give that background feeling, the sideshow, so to speak. But as you see in the photograph, it is very soft. That's also, of course, due to the lens that is used. But that's a nice effect. But we can replicate that effect by pre-mixing colors and making soft transitions. So now I add another color, more light, towards here, for example. And here, but I don't mix it through the other colors yet. I try not to touch it too much, that other color, because first I don't want to contaminate this color too much that I have on my brush right now. So it's just a matter of blocking in. Oh, what am I doing here? Oh, that's no problem. Here's a leaf. I have to spare that, save that a little bit. So there we go. Whoop. So maybe now at some spots I can mix them together, but I do that on my palette as well. You see, I mix these two values so that I have a transitional value between this one and this one. That makes it easier to blend. Just watch, you see, it's very easy. Then you get the kind of soft edges at the transitions. And as well with this slightly darker mixture, I can go over this again to indicate some darker parts at some spots. Well, that's about it. Then I grab this mixture and the sky mixture. You see, so I get a very light green for here at the edges. I'll just mix it a little bit together, and here as well. You get a soft edge here as well. And here. Then I clean the brush again a little bit, and I go over to some other colors that I can drop in at some spots. What have I done here? I have left this quite open. Oh, that's no problem, by the way. You can use this color for here. But here I would like to make it a little bit more green. We can do that later on. Here at some spots I just drop it in, and the transitions I will make shortly. At this stage I don't mind too much. But it's just that at some spots you have kind of different color in your painting. See? That gives a little bit of that soft background feel to it. Oh, here I forgot some spots too. I can do it like this. And now I head over, now I make a color in between this one and this one again. Some of these darker colors again. And to just wipe it through it at the edges. A little bit like this. But that's enough already. Don't spend too much time with these things. It's sideshow, it's scenery, and when you give it too much attention, it will get too much attention as well from the viewers. So here again, now I add a little bit of that other color, that more orangey color as well. At some spots, just like this. And I think we're there already. I can go over it again with my darkest color to make it more opaque, because sap green is a fairly transparent pigment, but this is quite alright for the background, I would say. Now I'm heading over to the colors of the leaves, and it's kind of the same process. I just take some imported colors. So you see, no need in throwing away all your paint. You can use it for other things. So this is quite right. It is a little bit to the dark side, so I'll add a slight amount of this light mixture as well. And because these colors are very dirty, so to speak, we sometimes call these dirty colors, that means they're brown or gray. They're not as vivid as the colors as you know them on the color wheel, but we call that dirty colors. And if you're working with dirty colors, you can use dirty materials on your palette as well. So you can use your dirty palette knife. That doesn't matter that much. If you want to make vivid colors, then it's a totally different story. Then you must be very careful not to contaminate your colors. But you see, I make an awful mess of it, but still I get sort of the right colors, because these are dirty colors on the painting. Okay, so this is a kind of brown we can use for here. Then it gets lighter over there, so I'll grab a little bit of this mixture over here. And maybe if I add a little bit of burnt umber, I'm not quite sure, but we can see, we can test. And again, because it's a dirty color, it doesn't matter that much. It's quite all right. So let's go on this way. So you see, whoop, here we have a color that's good enough for these kind of leaves. Then we get to the more yellow-green sort of leaves. And for that I'm gonna use more of the yellow, of course. Put it over here. And let's see what happens if we add a little bit of ultramarine. But you see, this is a kind of bit, it is going in the right direction, so to speak, but it lacks a little bit of yellow still. There we go. But as well, it is a little bit too saturated, so I'll have to destroy the saturation a little bit. Made a complete video about that recently. How to desaturate colors. It's a very important step in the color mixing process, because you have three things. You have color. What kind of color is it? Is it yellow, blue, orange? The main families. And then you have the question of how light or dark is it, so that we call that the tonal values of the colors. So yellow has a light tonal value and this green has a dark tonal value. And the third thing is how saturated is the color. And you can mute colors in different ways, but I've made a video about that already, so you can check that out if you like. But here you see I add a little bit of red to tone it down, but we have different kind of greens. So here, for instance, it gets slightly lighter and a little bit more to the blue side. So I add more white and I grab a little bit of this mixture. Let's see where it goes. But you see, mine lacks a little bit of blue. I keep a little bit of this here. But I want to make it slightly greener for other parts. So a little bit more yellow, blue, and a little bit more yellow as well. Don't be afraid to try these things. If you don't get there first time with color mixing, there's no shame at all. It is Sometimes it's really difficult. And just take your time and try different things. The search for the right color teaches you a lot. So I've pre-mixed some colors for the other leaves as well. And now we get to these kind of colors that we spoke about. But let me show you a trick very quickly. You can take a piece of cardboard, cut out a little square and put it all on top of your photograph. And now you can more clearly see what kind of color it is. So if I now compare my color to this, I can more clearly see what it is lacking. My color is, I have to stand in camera shortly. My color is a little bit too much to the brown side. It can use a little of this color, more of the green. And I think we're getting very close then already. Yes, we are. So you see, this is more the kind of color. And at some parts it is a little bit more towards the green side. So I'll add more of this green color over here, so that I can easily make some variations when I'm at it. That was a lot of work, but now we have paint to work with. So we can start painting like a painter. Well, it doesn't matter where you start, but I will start here at the right, because I'm left-handed. And I take a reasonably small brush now, because here are some detailed things. And over here it gets bigger, so I can use a bigger brush. And I'm not gonna do everything very detailed. It's just a kind of a color study. Now I wipe my brush clean a little bit and I go over to the lighter color here. You see, so now I just take some colors that I have on my palette and mix it together in the painting. Here it gets a little bit lighter, and maybe it can use a tiny touch of blue in it there. So here I lighten it up slightly. But this is all because of the fact that I have paint on my palette, so I can very freely paint. That's that leaf. I think over here it can use a little bit of detail as well, so some lighter parts here in it. Maybe a little bit like this, but then it's good enough already. Some darker parts, maybe I just use a darker color that I have lying around here. So, good enough. On to the next leaf. This one, for instance. So there we have, well, let's first put in this more detailed part. So there we go. Then I use a little bit of this more brown stuff. So I just wipe it through. Then it gets a little bit lighter again. It's a bit of the same story as we had with the previous leaf. See, so here we go. And here it gets more to the yellow, green, yellow side. So there we go. Just use the colors that you have made on your palette. And it's very easy. And then again, I want to use a little bit of this lighter color for the details here. Maybe here is a quite light part, and here again is the lighter part. So there you go. Here we have a very light leaf. I just grab that light color that I have here, so I make it, maybe I'll make it even more light. So hang on, because it gets a little bit, it almost merges with the background there. So with my dirty brush, I just go over here and add some extra white and a slight touch of ultramarine. Just so that I get a color that connects more with the background. If I add that, you see that my color connects more easily with the background. I can do even more here, and here it gets less, just so I build it up here extra. And again, I can put in even more. And a little touch of ultramarine as well. Because in that background color of the sky, there is ultramarine. And you see now, you hardly see that point of that leaf. It's the same as in the photograph, and that's what we like. At least I do. Then this leaf is more of this brown color, kind of color. Maybe this is a little bit too dark, but never mind. I just put it in a little bit like this. And then I go over to the slightly lighter version. And then I can complete this leaf as well. And then again I go to the darker part again, and I just indicate a little bit of the dark. Now I grab my bigger brush again and I start doing these bigger leaves over here. So here we have a quite dark leaf like this. Then we have this one. It's also very dark. So we just look at the patterns of the colors, the patterns of darker and lighter tonal values. I don't look at, oh, this is a leaf and here it is shining through and here it is transparent and there it is not. I just act as if I'm stupid, and maybe I am stupid, but just shut down your brains and just look at what you see. Try to look at what you see. That helps. That's the trick with painting and drawing. And the strange thing is, sometimes when you're painting and drawing, knowledge also helps. So if I know that something is transparent, of course I can use that knowledge. Sometimes when you know what you see, it's easier to paint it. But yeah, there are also times, and it's most of the times, especially with beginners in painting and drawing, then sometimes the brain yeah, makes it more difficult, in fact, to paint. And let's check again. Is this the right color for this one? I think so. It's quite all right. So here we go. And well, here it gets a little bit more towards the blue side. But first let me add this color. It's no problem. There you have it. I grab some of that other kind of green color that I have here. And I just add it a little bit. So there you go. Then I add this color here for this part. So I think that's a color like this. Yes, it is. So again, this is a transparent part. But I don't try to think of it as a transparent part. And you also see now it doesn't work, because this looks strange, because I haven't painted this leaf. But that's the way it goes with painting. You cannot do everything at once, of course, so yeah, it will you build gradually and it will look right in the end. Let's hope so. So now I do this stem. And here it goes a little bit like this, and here it goes over to this leaf. So I can adjust that later on if I like. But let me go on now with this more yellowish color here. On top of it here, it is a little bit of this. Then it gets lighter, so we go over to this color. So, and now I mix it a little bit here. So, there you go. And then I can go over with the same color over here. Oh yeah, no, that's right. So here it goes towards the stem. Here it is quite light. The lightest value that I have on my palette. So I'll paint it a little bit in the directions that I see. Then I head over to the slightly darker color. It can use a little bit more of blue. So there we go. I drop in a little bit extra of the ultramarine. So for this, and here I've been here it was a little bit too messy, so I'll try it again, so. And now we get an in-between value again. I think it's something like this. So there we go. This is a transparent part, but we don't see it as that, we just see a color plane. So I drop it in first, this, and then maybe it has to be a little bit darker at some spots. So I grab a slightly darker color and put it in here. See, so there we go. That's it. Then this I have to do as well, the stem. It goes up to that thing. So this dark part. So I grab this dark color. If you hear strange noises, for one, my microphone is a little bit broken, so I'm getting a new one, don't worry. But the other thing is you hear birds on the flat roof. I have a flat roof here on top of the building, and there are birds searching for food and that kind of stuff. Now I put a slightly lighter color that I pre-mixed next to it, you see? It's no effort at all. It's very, very easy when you have pre-mixed colors. It gives total freedom to paint. Again, I just clean my brush a little bit. Whoop. Light color. Well, it gets even lighter there, I think, but let's try this first. So, here we go. Now I grab an even lighter color for these parts. Oh, by the way, I almost forgot to tell. But as said before, I used a cadmium yellow color. And cadmium yellow is a very opaque pigment because I want to be over with this painting very quickly. And a downside of most yellow pigments, most yellow colors that you can buy, is that the pigments are usually quite transparent. So a lot of the times when you want to do something like this, if you want to follow along with me and you want to paint this as well, and you don't have a cadmium yellow, that's no problem. But chances are that you need to cover your painting several times. If you understand what I mean, because the first layer maybe won't cover. It's no problem, that's just how it is. That is what you have when you paint with acrylics and with oils. You deal with the pigments that you have, and some pigments are transparent and some pigments are opaque. So here is a shiny leaf and here is a shiny leaf. So there you go, and here as well. There we go. So here we go, a color that is a little bit more green, not as brown as what I have there. So that's more like this. Then it gets, oh yeah, here we go like this. Here I've gone too far with my with my layer, but I'll adjust it. So here we go. I just drop this color in. Then here it is darkest, and here is light. That is that, and here we also have a brownish, greenish color at the edge of this leaf, also because there's a leaf shining through, or maybe there's a shadow or something like that. So we can add some details, of course, if you like this. But the main purpose of this video was to show you how you can approach these kind of objects if you see transparent things. So some small details, maybe it's funny to do that. So this stem has a darker side here, lighter side over there. So here you go. And also I hope that you see that it is very useful to pre-mix some important colors. Because when you have colors on your palette, it's very easy to paint really freely. And you see the mess that I'm making of my palette. Well, I don't mind, but that's the way it is. But you see, now I grab some colors that I have, like this. I adjust them slightly with my brush, because you don't have to, you don't have to mix everything with a palette knife all the time. When you have some main colors, you can easily adjust them with your brush in the end. So here, for instance, watch out with these kinds of lines as well. You can hardly see them on the photograph, so make sure that you don't put in too much contrast in your painting as well, and a contrast in color and in value. So this is already getting a little bit too dark for my taste, you see? But we can get away with it still. And here again I see some light, sharp light edges around the leaf, like this. But you see, talking about leaves, I think I leave it like this. You get the idea, I hope. So I hope that was helpful. Thanks for watching. See you next time.